Hello, one and all. This is my review of Ascendance of Bookworm, Part 5, Volume 8. And apologies, I know this video is late, but I have a very good excuse, because as you may have noticed from the title of this channel, I am no longer Justking. I am Dr. Justking! Yes, my friends, after a very, very, very long 5 years that broke me physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, I am now a doctor. Kinda. I mean, okay, I passed my defense, that is the hard part, but I still have a lot of revisions to make. In fact, just yesterday alone, a community member gave me 130 comments that I should really be working my way through right now, but I couldn't wait longer. I had to cover this freaking volume because, you know, Myne and Ferdinand, they are endgame now. That has basically been 100% confirmed. And honestly, that should have been obvious for a very long time. I mean, it was said, you know, basically that nobles, in order to marry, in order to have kids, require the two partners to have a roughly equal amount of mana. And this volume, Myne crushed the betrothal charm given to her by Prince Siggy, the Crown Prince, the man who should theoretically have more mana than anyone else in the entire country. So if she can't marry him, she pretty much can't marry anybody. Except it's also said that Ferdinand has a roughly equivalent amount of mana to her, so, I mean, they either marry each other or they stay single for the rest of their lives. Those are the two options they have right now. I mean, seriously, how did anybody ever think that Wilfrid would be a good match for Myne? There was no way he has the mana for that, or the dedication to train his mana for that. But even more importantly than his utter inadequacy is the fact that he was completely and utterly incapable of, for lack of a better term, controlling Myne. Yeah, I don't like that word. I really don't like that word, but I think you'll understand what I mean. Myne is a beautiful, brilliant, kind, gifted young woman, but she is also out of her goddamn mind most of the time, and her thought process just rarely aligns with noble thinking or even with the common sense of the world in general, and that's because of the absolutely insane life that she has lived. From Japanese girl to commoner to shrine maiden to merchant, from Japanese girl to commoner to merchant to shrine maiden to noble to fiancé of the crown prince. She has lived a very, very strange life, and so has a greater perspective than anyone else in the world. But it also means her thinking doesn't align with anyone else in the entire world, and her fiancé needs to be somebody who can actually wrangle that insane, crazy gremlin energy into something productive, efficient, and non-destructive, and that has never been Wilfrid. I mean, seriously, the first year of the Royal Academy, he tried to do that. It's like, oh, well, you can't go to the library until everyone passes their classes, which led to an absolute nightmare that the former first years are still trying to recover from. And he just never got better after that. Seriously, even after Ferdinand left the country, Ferdinand was still the one who was keeping her under control through his letters and through the recording of his voice that he gave to her retainers. Having that chastise her whenever she went a little bit off the rails. Love it. Absolutely love it. Meanwhile, on the flip side, Ferdinand needs someone who not only cares about his health, but is actually able to manage his health. And that's something even his retainers, who have been with him for a decade plus, are unable to do. Heck, when, Ferdinand refuses to leave his hidden room, Eckhart goes to Myne and begs her to drag him out of it so that he will eat, because, the only person that Ferdinand will actually listen to is goddamn freaking Myne. Plus, she is pretty much the only person in the world, besides Sylvester, that he actually seems to care about. And the fact that his last testament went to her and not Sylvester tells us which of the two are actually more important to him, which shouldn't be all that surprising. He says this volume that Sylvester has always put him second, caring more about Veronica, his wife, and his children more than Ferdinand. Though I'm sure it wasn't easy for him, when he saw Last Testament go to Myne and not him, and he realized, oh, man, am I that crummy of a big brother? Yes, Sylvester, you really, really are. Also, oh god, I'm on this tangent. Let's not forget that Ferdinand told Hannelore that Myne was our team's greatest treasure. Oh, that's adorable. That is truly, absolutely adorable. Also, Myne literally said this volume that her perfect husband is someone who supports me in my charge towards my dreams, who protects me from everything, and who cares for me without paying any mind to status. And Ferdinand, matches all those criteria. He's quite literally offering to help support her in achieving her dreams of having a library city, has protected her for most of her life, and truly does not seem to care that she was born a commoner. So overall, these two are good for each other. They not only, help each other, but they make each other better, healthier, and more productive people. And yeah, I'm not particularly thrilled about this huge age gap between them, especially because, Ferdinand met Myne when she was so young. But Ferdinand learned almost immediately that Myne was in fact not a normal child, but rather someone with the memories of a freaking adult who's lived a full past life. So that certainly does help. I mean, seriously, imagine how much weirder it would have been if Myne developed feelings for Wilfried, someone who was a literal child in her mind. But anyway, though, now that Myne finally looks like an adult, more or less, it's mostly okay. Seriously? Can you imagine how weird this ship would have been if Ferdinand started developing feelings for her when she still looked like a child? 6 months ago. Oh, but speaking of her new body, I absolutely love the way he describes it. She had almost become so beautiful that I struggled to believe my eyes. It appeared to me that her features were perfect in the most literal sense. Before he added, I could only sigh that she would sully this literal gift from the gods with her unseemly behavior. Savage, absolutely freaking savage, Ferdinand. But the next line, though, as he goes on about, he's like, oh, okay, she's still the same wild, crazy, insane gremlin. She's still the same person deep down, and he's happy about that. He's happy that she is still his Myne. And I do very much mean his Myne. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think these two work really well together, and I mostly approve of the ship, but it also seems very clearly like Ferdinand is marking his territory, with Leonor even saying, you and Lord Ferdinand seem more like an intimate couple than a guardian and his charge. I mean, none of his actions seemed overwhelmingly inexcusable, and he had a pretty good argument for each of them, but he also clearly seemed to be going out of his way to frame them as a couple, having her ride with him during the battle, wrapping her in his cloak. I'm pretty sure that's even a pickup line. Let me wrap you in my cloak of darkness. Sneaking away to a room that only they could enter and giving her a medical exam in the middle of an estate. He clearly wants everyone around him to understand that Myne is his, and ironically, the only person who doesn't getting this message is Myne herself. Seriously, the dude offered to run the duchy alongside her in a lab that shared a roof with her library. He basically just gave himself the role of first husband of the Archduke, and the Archduke herself didn't seem to notice. Honestly, with how dense she is, I wouldn't be surprised if she didn't realize anything was going on until their actual freaking engagement ceremony. But that being said, Ferdinand did basically propose this volume. He gave her his vows. He vowed to get her a library. He vowed to let her spend time with her family, as long as he's the one controlling the schedule. He vowed to get her all the delicious fish she wanted, and he vowed to get her a whole bunch of crazy new delicious spices. He basically promised her everything that she has ever said she has wanted since the beginning of this series. He has been listening, and he is willing to deliver on all of it for her sake, for the sake of her happiness and the life they will live together. Amazing! And so yeah, Myne is getting the library city she always wanted, and Ferdinand is getting both her and revenge against the royal family that royally forked him over, and against all of Ahrensbach. Because he is absolutely convinced that they will suffer under the insanity of Myne's reign, and has already recruited both Hartmut and Clarissa to brainwash the population into obedience. And I love this pivot. Seriously, the man was so desperate to destroy this entire duchy, to burn it to the ground, and make everyone in it suffer. And then he realized, oh, I can just give it to Myne. I can just make it a playground for her, and that'll probably be equally as entertaining for me. Savage, my man. Absolutely savage, and I love it. Oh, and speaking of burning the whole place to the ground, God, I love Eckhart because the man is such a murder hobo. I mean, Justice is too, as they are both planning to wipe out the entire archducal family, and maybe just, all of the nobles in general as revenge, but he is just so much less stable and so much more loyal than Justice is. He barely blinks when he sees an aged up Myne because her aging 5 years and 6 months isn't nearly as important as saving Ferdinand, even saying, I expect no less my little sister and Lord Ferdinand's protege. Doesn't matter how much she's changed on the outside, she's still my little sister, and she still cares deeply about Lord Ferdinand. Oh my god, seriously, has this man ever actually referred to Myne as his little sister before? Because he says it over and over and over again this volume, almost as if her trying to save Ferdinand made her his favorite sibling. God, poor Cornelius. And Eckhart also got some more time with Angelica this volume, and I am still shipping these two hard. I mean, just as how, Ferdinand is really helpful for Myne, Eckhart is really helpful for Angelica. He's a good compliment for her, correcting her more absent-minded behavior, and they both seem to share an undying loyalty for their respective masters, so much so that she almost attacked Eckhart when he was a bit too eager in asking how Ferdinand was. God, I love these two, seriously. But anyway, though, overall, this is a volume about going to war, and it begins by Myne saying, I realize this is sudden, but we shall invade Ahrensbach and steal its foundation tonight. Wow, just wow. I mean, that is a bold statement. She's basically saying, we're gonna go overthrow a government in one night with no prep time whatsoever. Though Judith can't go to war without her parents' permission, and Daniel has to stay behind to protect Myne's family. I mean, I initially thought it was like a pointless idea because why would Georgine target her family? She still thinks that Myne is dead, but he did play an important role in getting her family and the Gutenbergs to the library, so I guess that was overall a pretty smart move. And God, I could not help but smile when Myne said, I thank you ever so much. You were my first knight, and you have been my best knight ever since. Oh yes, that is right, Myne. Damuel is the best freaking boy, and nobody should look down on him for being a noble, especially since he has the mana of a med noble at this point. But anyway, though, then the war begins, this grand, epic battle with the Ditter Dutch doing this whole ritual that gets Myne pumped up. It's like, yeah, let's go kill people! But then they get there, and it's like really, really quiet and dull and boring, because as it turns out, Georgine and Detlin initiated a full-blown purge of everyone who was not aligned with them, so there are no knights to stop them because they're all either dead or sealed off in their hidden rooms, so they just kind of fly right to the castle and the temple with no issue whatsoever. I love it. I absolutely freaking love it. In fact, it is so underwhelming and uninteresting that Hannelore basically begs Myne to let her soldiers keep fighting because she knows how insane they'll be if they go home without burning off all this pumped up energy. I mean, seriously, Myne invited them to play True Ditter, and so far, nobody's even gotten a scratch. That is embarrassing. Meanwhile, Myne quite easily steals the foundation and becomes the next Archduke of Ahrensbach. She is like 15, hasn't finished school, and is now in charge of an entire duchy, which is currently ranked like 6th or something. She now pretty much outranks almost everyone in the entire country, including Sylvester. The next time she sees Sylvester, he'll have to bow to her. Oh, that's insane. But regardless, then it is time to save Ferdinand, and I absolutely love the parallels here. I mean, not only is she administering medicine to him the same way it's done to her so many times throughout the series, but even the methods she uses are the same. When she was poisoned back at the end of part 3, he had to put an antidote so Grag in her mouth because she couldn't swallow, and that's exactly what she did here. And then when she fed him the rejuvenation potion, the ultra nasty one, he thought it was poison, just like she did the first time she had to take it. My God, that was hilarious. And you can clearly tell that afterwards he was really, really embarrassed about how truly awful his potions were, and about how he kind of overreacted just a little bit, trying to choke Myne to death. And then, Ferdinand is just really, really confused because, the gods ordered Ferdinand to die. They ordered Myne to kill Ferdinand. So why isn't Myne happy that he was dying? Doesn't she want him dead? Yeah, it turns out Ferdinand is an idiot who fully and completely underestimated just how much Myne actually cared about him and what she'd be willing to do to save him. Now, would letting him die save the country? Yeah, probably. But she would rather the country and everybody in it die rather than let Ferdinand die. Yeah, okay, so she might be genuinely insane, and I can't really blame Ferdinand for not expecting that. But as she says, the greater duchies, the sovereignty, the royal family, even the gods themselves, I would make an enemy of the entire world to save you. To which Ferdinand can say nothing. He just rolls over on his face. Oh, I so badly need to see this animated. And with that, then we get a nice little history lesson showing how exactly the entire country fell apart. Because, things used to be really, really productive. The gods picked the kings, they ruled fairly and justly, and then when they died, the gods picked a new king. Huzzah! Except then they realized, hey, we don't actually need the god's mission to be king. There's a backup manual right here. Let's just use that. So then rather than, discussing with the gods, getting permission from the gods, they all just started fighting 24/7 over who would be the next king, who would be the next Zens. And then one Zen came up and said, okay, let's stop this. From now on, only my family gets to be Zens. Only they can rule this country. Which was a good idea in the sense that it stopped the fighting, but the fighting, was also kind of important because as part of their training for the fighting, they perform religious ceremonies again and again and again to get more divine protections, to get more elements, they'd be able to get the magic Bible thing. And now they stopped doing that, so religious ceremonies kind of ground to a rather abrupt halt, which has led to a lot of problems over the generations. And then good old Zent Absanti decided that her darling, if highly, highly inadequate son, should become the next Zent, even though he was not omni-elemental or up to the task in any way whatsoever. And I'm honestly very curious about Myne's line here. Didn't she realize how much anguish the throne would cause her beloved son? I'm honestly not sure if this is a reference to how Veronica raised Sylvester to be Archduke, or how Sylvester raised Wilfrid to be Archduke, even though both of them were pretty inadequate for the role. It might have been about both of them, but either way, this led to the Magic Bible becoming a tool passed down from royal to royal, and eventually people forgot that it would return to the archives upon the Zent's death, which is why nobody's been able to find it for the last decade plus. Huzzah! Mystery solved. Thank the freaking gods. But now Myne has the true Book of Mestionora, but it doesn't actually matter because she can't hand over the royal family because they can't freaking read it. Yeah, like I said, religious ceremonies, old language, a lot of things were forgotten. Sorry about that. But regardless, then it's time to face off against the giant anti-magical submarine. And seriously, how advanced is this country? They have a bunch of anti-magic stuff, super deadly poisons, and their anti-magic submarine also fires anti-magic needles. So they basically have cannons, and I am seriously impressed. Though what was even more impressive was Ferdinand's plan to stop the submarine, saying, I failed to see the problem. Could we not just make it winter? Yes, my man Ferdinand is suggesting they just casually change the season, and I am glad he got the Ahrensbach nobles to watch because seeing this might actually be more effective than brainwashing them. I mean, we know how magic works in the series. We understand the principles behind it. We've seen it studied. But this is on a scale that is just beyond anything we have seen before. I mean, yes, of course, Myne brought summer back in part 3, but that was part of a large ritual with a lot of people, and it only took effect overnight. This is immediate and in a very confined and very clear area. It's insane. So insane that Heishitz can't help but say, how can you all remain so at ease? Am I the only one who heard Lord Ferdinand say they plans to summon winter? Seriously, this is the man who has lost to Ferdinand more than anyone else in the entire world, and even he is losing his goddamn mind over how insane this plan is. And if that wasn't enough, Myne then puts the fear of God into the ditter duchy knights as they feast, saying, "Is it customary to drink in the middle of a game? To think you would feast instead of resting in preparation for tomorrow?" To which they sheepishly reply, "We shall clean up at once and go to bed." God above. Seriously, Leslet, just getting a heads up right now, you may have a coup on your hands. In the eyes of your knights, there is nobody more qualified in the entire world to be the first wife of your duchy, and they are going to be very, very mad at you for repeatedly taking off mine and failing to marry her. So, just thought I'd give you a heads up about that. But anyway, though, then after a 2-day coma in her panda bus, Myne is up and ready and teleports over to the Bindewald estate. And there's definitely a sort of closure in this moment. Bindewald, aka Count Toad, was the man responsible for Myne having to become a noble when she did. He royally forked up her life, put the fear of nobles in her and her family, and she is now visiting his home for the first time ever as his Archduke. I think he's dead. I'm 90% certain he was executed, but she is still able to rub it in the face of his wife and her sisters, one of whom is good old Fraularm, and all of whom suck just completely and utterly and are just the stupidest people I have ever met in my entire life. Like, they go on and on, over and over again, about how it is unthinkable and unacceptable for a bunch of Ahrensbach knights to teleport into their state. Except it's more than that. At the very least, this is an invasion. But more importantly, only the Archduke and people given the permission of the Archduke are allowed to teleport. So there should be some very, very big red flags going off right now, and she just ignores all of them, while also inadvertently confessing that she was the one who poisoned, or she was at least in on the plan to assassinate Myne with poison, before ranting that she is just a filthy commoner. And again, no situal awareness, because, as I said, this is at minimum an invasion, rather trying to defend themselves or run away. They just keep insulting her, before everyone insists how absolutely insane it would be for a commoner to come first in her grade 3 years in a row and steal a foundation. Oh god, I really do love the fact that Fraularm will need to spend the rest of her life, however long that is, knowing that a commoner is her ruler, is her Archduke. Oh, and on that same point, somebody really, really needs to tell Veronica. She basically worships Ahrensbach as this utopian society that's perfect and beautiful and amazing. Oh, that'll be fun. But anyway, though, then Cornelius starts stomping on her head repeatedly while saying, "Don't you dare insult my little sister ever again." I love it. I love it when he's a big brother to her. The moments are rare, but they are adorable. And then we end with an epilogue from Georgine's point of view. And I've got to say, after reading this, I am almost rooting for her. Don't get me wrong, I truly hate her, but this girl seriously deserves a win. She was brought up with an education so strict that it was essentially torture, and when she tried to replicate that with her little sister, an act that permanently destroyed their relationship, nobody stopped her because they didn't want to let her know that she had actually been tortured her entire life. They thought it was just easier to let her keep torturing her little sister than have that awkward conversation. And that's the thing that really gets me. It's the passivity of her father, Abadalbi. He basically just let his wife decide that Sylvester would be the next Archduke. That was not the plan. That was probably not even something he'd even be told that she was planning on saying, but she did. And he did not correct her. He said he would, but then he just kind of waited and hoped everything would fix itself on its own. And that does seem to be like this man's entire philosophy. The entire reason why Ahrensbach didn't enter the war originally was because he couldn't pick a side. He is literally incapable of making a single decision, and weirdly enough, I think I actually hate him more than Veronica. Veronica is evil, but she's also crazy. He doesn't give me the same crazy vibes. He just gives me, oh, I don't want to rock the boat vibes. And that just royally, royally ticks me off. Anyway, though, then they decided to ship Georgine off to become the third wife of a man old enough to be her father. And like I said, Veronica is crazy enough that she thought that this was a great idea, and that Georgine was, and probably is, grateful for it. Yeah, like I said, somebody needs to tell Veronica about a lot of stuff. But yeah, like I said, Georgine deserves a win, and she is absolutely not going to get it here, almost entirely because of Detland. Holy mother of God above, this girl could not have messed up Georgine's plans more if she had tried. Not only did she fail to kill Ferdinand, but she failed to try and kill him in a room with Justice and Eckhart, meaning they were able to escape not only from the room, but to the goddamn Royal Academy, which is something that Georgine didn't think was actually possible, meaning that Detland never told her that she gave them permission to go to the Academy whenever the freak they wanted. Seriously, Detland, did you not think about that? Did you not realize, like, oh, they escaped, and, oh, right, I gave them permission. Oh, they're probably at the Royal Academy by now. Were you not concerned about that at all? Did you not think, like, oh, this is going to be an issue for me? Or were you just that confident? Were you just so certain, like, okay, this won't be an issue by the time they get there, by the time they get into Ascension, I will already have the Magic Bible, and I'll be the next Sense, so who the freak cares? I don't know. I genuinely don't know what's going through her mind right now. Though that being said, Georgine's plans had some flaws of their own. As she said like 3 separate times this chapter, haha, nobody knows I am secretly a noble in disguise. Except they very much did, and that isn't that surprising. Let's not forget that even Justice failed to act like commoner when he went to investigate Myne, so it would have been much, much weirder if Georgine had actually been able to pull off an accurate depiction of what a commoner looked and acted like. And then we get a bunch of mini chapters, which I really loved. The defense of Ahrensbach. I mean, clearly this is a really, really big war with a lot of people playing a lot of different parts. So it's really interesting to see all those parts and how everyone is reacting to this. I mean, I think my favorite part from this was the PV of Gabe Kernberger, because while he only had a very small appearance in this volume, there was a lot going on in this man's mind throughout that. At the start of the chapter, he wants to send troops to support his son and curry favor with Wilfrid, but his son has no idea there's a war going on in the next couple of days, which is a problem since it means that he is being kept out of the loop. But he doesn't have any time to worry about that because then the Archduke says, oh, I'm teleporting over in a couple hours, which is surprising not only because, why would he come here, but also should be impossible because he has no idea there's a teleportation circle on his estate, so he spends the entire day trying to find it. Then the Archduke and Myne shows up, but she is way older than she should be, and Eckhart and Justice are with her, but they shouldn't be because they should be back in Ahrensbach, and then Myne has the Magic Bible, and she opens the gate for the first time in 200 years, and he's overwhelmed with awe and amazement, but he's also deeply terrified this is an act of treason, since treason is the entire reason why his province exists, but then he's reassured that Myne will be adopted and married into a royal family, so it's not treason, but that's also bad on its own, because not only was she not going to become the next Archduke, but Wilfrid, who his son is serving, also will become the next Archduke, so he has no idea what's going to happen with him, and all this is going on, it's a storm of confusion, rapidly changing emotions going through this man's head, and I loved it. Seriously, it's such a fun chapter, and if a normally common rational man just fully losing his mind, beautiful. I don't know if any of that was intelligible, but I had a lot of fun saying it all very quickly. And then we get the Bridget chapter, which is so adorable because, seriously, it's been such a long time we've seen her, and I completely melted when I realized that she named her daughter Lila Rose, after Rose and Myne. God, that was sweet. As was Myne sending her some better info to make sure that she would be okay and prepared for the coming invasion. Which, unlike French's letter, which said, oh, just get ready, Myne's letter said, oh, they're coming like tomorrow or the next day. Be ready, get ready freaking ASAP. And also, much like last chapter, we had a complete and total panic attack from the Gabe when he was told backup was arriving on the teleportation gate, which he didn't know existed either. Though at least this time they were able to give him a general direction, the estate front garden. I just loved, when he asked, where is the estate front garden? Bridge is like, I'm pretty sure it's the garden at the front of the estate. Love that. Absolutely love that. Oh, God. And then Effa and Gunther had their chapters, and I just loved how diametrically opposed these two are. Effa was terrified at the thought of her sickly underage daughter leading an army into war, whereas Gunther could not have been more proud since he knows that she is keeping her promise to him. Effa also says, mere commoners, there is nothing we can hope to accomplish in a battle between nobles, while Gunther is planning to throw a bunch of poop at nobles. That is certainly something. God above, I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see their reaction to having, like I said, poop thrown at them by commoners. I literally can't think of anything more shameful to them than that. Also loved Effa's reaction to the noble quarter, with her primary thought being, if they don't share wells, then when do they gossip? Oh, girl. Nobles take gossip to a whole nother level, as it's basically the primary job of most noble women to have tea parties and gossip and gather information. And then she sees Myne's giant house and is fully incapable of processing that her daughter lives in such a place, until she is told, oh no, this is just where Myne keeps her books. God above, this is a house bigger than any she has seen in her entire life, and Myne is just using it to store her freaking books. I mean, that broke her. That fully and completely broke her. And the chapter ended with her sewing to clothes for Myne, which was so adorable. I mean, that is a mother's job, and that's not something she's been able to do for Myne for a very long time. I mean, yeah, she's been able to do the dye work for the clothes, but she hasn't been able to sew them. I mean, although a father's job is to protect their child, and Gunther is finally getting a second chance. He wasn't able to stop the nobles the first time, but by the gods, he will stop them this time. And then we end with a Ferdinand chapter, and this man is, unsurprisingly, pretty down the dumps about being poisoned by his own student, even saying Veronica had been correct, it seemed. I was useless when it mattered most. At least until Myne steals his name and declares, I'm coming to save you, and there's nothing that can stop me. Live! I mean, God above. That is an insane sentence. I mean, putting aside the fact that this order literally goes the directions given to her by the freaking gods, ordering someone to live kind of makes them unkillable. I mean, for example, in the MA Code Geass, the MC Lelouch has the power to brainwash people to follow any one order, and the order he ends up giving to someone is live. And while I doesn't think much of that, it actually ends up having huge consequences, as after that, the person is basically put in a hypnotic state whenever their life is in danger, during which time they will do anything physically possible to survive. And we saw that here with Ferdinand. It took all the strength he had, but he was just barely able to move his hand a little bit off the circle, which may have been what actually saved his life, because when Myne got to the Foundation later on, she said only a small amount of mana was being drained out of him, which might have been because of that small movement, because of the order she gave him to live. I'm not sure about that, but that is my current headcanon. But anyway, though, now he's alive and decided to live a much more selfish life, going after the things he really wants, including Myne, and revenge against a whole lot of people. Yay! Oh god, that was fun. And two other things I want to mention. First off, when they were trying to figure out who lived and who died during this massive purge, and they sent out the Ordanzes to everyone, to all Ferdinand's retainers, the line, 3 of them refused to fly. Oh, that was grim. That was so utterly, utterly grim, especially when paired with the scene later on in the British chapter when she tries to send an Ordans to Myne, and he refuses to fly. And she's like, no, she's dead. Why is she dead? I mean, yeah, that's weird. I said it was really grim, but that turned really funny, but you know what I mean. I mean, although Ferdinand's reaction to learning that Myne stole the Foundation was, spectacular. His brain literally stopped for a few seconds as he tried to process the news, but I do think he was in the wrong here. He said, oh, you should have just found the current Archduke and tortured them, but I don't think the current Archduke is even in Ahrensbach right now, so that probably would have taken a very long time. Probably much longer than just, stealing the Foundation itself. But that did lead this great back and forth. What lunatic would die a Foundation just to rescue someone? You're looking at her! Ferdinand crumbles to his knees as if completely sapped of strength. You truly are the biggest fool I've ever met. Ferdinand took so much mental damage this volume, seriously. I love it. We also once more confirmation that nobody is giving Myne the proper female noble education, as she has no idea what a courting magic tool is, which is apparently something her mother should have taught her. And this isn't the first time Myne's made this kind of mistake, showing her lack of a proper education. However, I'm hopeful this will be the last time, because, Leonore witnessed this. Every other time this has happened, it was in the middle of class, when only Wilfried was around her, and there's no way Wilfried's running back home saying, like, hey, did somebody remember to give Myne the talk? But hopefully Leonore lets, Florentia, Elvira know, like, hey, Myne has some really, really big gaps in her education. Which of you was supposed to be in charge of that? Love it. And finally, oh god, I just want to mention how much I absolutely love Ferdinand, really living up to his title of Lord of Evil. He subtly implied that Myne needed him if she wanted to see her family more often, and then convinced the Ditter Duchy to not only help him take down the anti-magic submarines, but also to protect all of Ahrensbach, which was in no way part of the original deal. And he does it by throwing some serious shade. If a duchy does not have good defenses, even the strongest knights can easily taste defeat. I expect you to know that, considering how many times your duchy lost its treasure to me. Savage! Absolutely savage! Serve under me, Heishits. Together we will crush our foes into nothing. Seriously, this man is a master manipulator, and I love it! And of course, we also told Clarissa and Hartmut to brainwash all of the Ahrensbach nobles into worshipping her, and it actually seems to be working, so that's terrifying. Utterly, utterly terrifying. So yeah, this volume, holy mother of God above. In this volume, Myne stole a foundation and both Ferdinand's name and his heart. Can't wait to see what she does next as the new Archduke of Ahrensbach, and I'm very much hoping to get to see Detland, Veronica, and Georgine all reacting to that news because it will be freaking goddamn hilarious. Also, Ferdinand now realizes he's in love with Myne, so his efforts to court her next volume are certainly going to be interesting while they are still in the midst of, an active freaking war. Can't wait for that. Please let me know down below. What do you think of the Myne and Ferdinand ship? Do you approve? Do you disapprove? What's your thoughts on that? And just what do you think's going to happen next? Let me think of all that down below. And until next time, peace!